Hello, I'm Vaishali Kohli and you're watching NewsX. Now viewers, Delhi's worsening air quality has once again hit home for many residents this week. The air quality in the national capital deteriorated further today with the air quality index near AIIMS and surrounding areas touching 421, placing it in the severe category. According to data from the Centre for Pollution Control Board, the worsening air quality comes after Saturday's citywide average AQI stood at 245, which falls under the poor category. The spike marks a sharp escalation in pollution levels across Delhi within 24 hours. As per CPCB data, several monitoring stations across the capital recorded air quality in the severe range, while some areas continue to report very poor levels. I have my guest joining me, Indra Shekhar Singh, Agri Policy Analyst, and Anand Arya, Environmentalist. I want to go across to Anand Arya, who's an environmentalist. Now, Anand, welcome to the show, and I want to ask you the first question. My first question to you is that, of course, pollution levels are alarming, but what does it do to the environment? How is it harming the environment?
Well, this is the polluted environment. It doesn't do, it is just, it's completely spoiled your environment qualities, which is air quality, which you breathe, because of that, you cannot sort of live. And I have been speaking from your platform for about 10, 12 years now. And so far, you see, we know exactly where the pollution is coming from. What is the source of pollution? What is the quantum of pollution from that particular source? What are the solutions for that? And there are also, to support this, to support the governance, actually there are a number of judicial pronouncements as well. From NGT, from Delhi High Court, and from the Supreme Court on top of it. So I really do not understand why do we have to suffer every year for the last 15 years as we have been doing, why the air pollution should be so much, why the air should be so toxic. Actually, I have been sitting on my computer for the last 3 days drafting yet another PIL to the Supreme Court, because 4 days back, when I just stepped out for a small walk, I almost got choked on this. And I really don't know what is wrong with the governance. Why are they not able to do anything on the ground? 3 years ago, we made CAQM, the Commission for Air Quality Management. Now, I have been searching the whole lot of net. I've been searching the AI applications. If they have set up, targets for, let us say, 23, 24, 25, 27, and I cannot find a document of that nature. Whereas the earlier committee, EPCA, Environment Protection and Committee on Authority, which was set up by the Supreme Court, did have exactly what I'm saying. Each source of pollution, quantum of pollution, what is to be done, who is to do it, and by what time we will achieve a certain quality. And today, why, I don't see anything on the ground. What are the sources for the dust pollution, which pollutes the air so much? Number one, there is there is industrial emissions. And the worst part of it is the construction and demolition dust which comes. And there are, road dust. And there is a certain amount of vehicular pollution, which I would say is not really a function for the public to do anything. You see, if all these, and then all this air becomes toxic when from the 43 nalas, the big ones I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the smaller ones, when they, travels through the city, all kinds of toxic elements, sort of get attached to the moisture in the air. And exactly, look at it, Yamuna. I mean, how many thousands of crores we have spent? Where is the solution? Nothing. And what is it that the judiciary is doing? Because in the, as a part of the governance, there is in the bureaucrats. I mean, they are the people who are responsible for it. And what have they done? Have they really, any one of them, been held accountable? Because their whole system does not have a, accountability built into the control system. Whereas in a private sector, if I'm not doing my job properly, I'll get the boot next day. What happens to these people? They just sit on their air conditioned rooms, and year after year we talk about the same thing, and these people are just sitting there in their air conditioned rooms and doing nothing and getting promotion after promotion. And majority of them will retire as secretaries, or the additional secretaries, or the joint secretary, the plum positions all over the country. And I'm amazed at the Supreme Court, that despite their directions to do A, B, C, D, why haven't they put up somebody? And why haven't they put somebody into the Tihar jail? You see, a very simple analogy. In the classroom, when we were young, one child was admonished, or he was given one punishment. And the whole, row of the rooms in that floor would, there would be no noise at all, no nonsense at all, because it has to be a system of reward and punishment. So, and Supreme Court is doing nothing. Look at it. I mean, I have just opened in front of me a letter which I have, using to draft my PIL, where Justice Arun Mishra, while I was sitting on your, channel, some about 14 or 50, 2014 or 15, his statement had come in the newspapers. It was there, front. I am choking. I cannot go out for a walk. So I really cannot understand why the Supreme Court is not using, these 34 justices are absolutely extraordinary people in the sense, in the world, that they have the powers to dispense justice even when there is no law. So where are those powers, Mr. Chief Justice? I really want to understand this. And who pays for it? It's the ordinary citizens like me, whose cars are banned from flying.
Absolutely, Anand. I'll have to interrupt you for a second because we have our other guest joining me. But you've raised some really pertinent points, and I completely agree with you, Anand. Yesterday I stepped out for a walk in the evening, and there's a nip in the air, viewers. There's a chill. The weather is really nice, but you can't breathe. It's such a claustrophobic feeling when you step outside, even for a walk. So now joining me is Indra Shekhar Singh, Agri Policy Analyst. Now, Indra, I want to ask you my first question, because you're an agri policy analyst. Have you analyzed any data, and what do you see in it?
See, first of all, speaking of agriculture, our first thought goes to stubble burning. And while many people are saying that stubble burning is one of the major reasons for what's happening to Delhi, I must tell the viewers once again, and which the government of India has also said, that stubble burning is not the major source of pollution in Delhi. It at best covers 4%, and it's an episodic source which happens between Dussehra and Diwali, and maybe a few days after Diwali. After that, most of the stubble burning is stopped because the farmers are putting in new crops such as wheat, and so there's no need for stubble burning. Now, this is the primary, although it's not, a major source, but it does contribute to pollution in the city, and not just in the city, but all across the Gangetic Plains, where these industrial revolution varieties of rice are being grown. So I think definitely there is an agricultural residue problem here, which needs to be dealt with. Even if it's 4% is a lot, we have new data coming out that 15% of all deaths in Delhi happen, or in the NCR region happen, because of pollution. So that's still too many people dead because of something which is totally preventable. And I do agree with my earlier speaker on the various things he said. I must just add a few more things, saying that first of all, why our Supreme Court cannot do anything, why our government cannot do anything, is because they don't want to do anything. We are on a collective suicide mission where we think that we can exploit nature, cut the trees, destroy the rivers, and still live on. You know, the myth of the industrial mechanistic society and utopia is not possible. And Delhi and India have shown that. If you really go up against nature without ensuring ecological balance, poison will be in our air and poison will be in our blood. Our children, there are many people, there are many mothers right now who may be watching this show or expecting mothers. They are poisoning their children just to begin with. As soon as they're beginning their life, their womb is polluted because of the air that they're breathing, the food that they're eating. The plants and vegetables that are growing on this air and growing on this water, they get contaminated. So what you're doing is basically you're causing a very slow poison death to everybody that's involved in the city. Now, what kind of message does that give on governance, on policy making? It's not the first time this is happening. This problem has been happening for many, many decades. So why are we not solving the problem? Why are we not ensuring that farmers in Punjab shift to other crops? We give them the income support, pay them for ecological services, introduce newer machines, and not go for such like basically myopic ideas like cloud seeding. We have more silver iodine in the air than that was before the cloud seeding experiment failed. Now IIT is saying and said that Delhi needs more moisture for the cloud seeding experiment to even be slightly successful. So what are we doing here? We are wasting people's money and putting it in the pockets of our friends. And this is what the country of India is doing right now. Any political level, any society, any whatever you see, wherever there is a government program, there are of course a few specific beneficiaries where every one of us has to suffer. And today the citizens cannot only do anything. There's political infighting between the political class. The bureaucracy has their own agenda. So who finally suffers? It's us who've been suffering since the British era and still continue to suffer at the hands of our own government. I think that's the real crisis today. That we have forgotten the Vasudev Kutumbakam. We've forgotten what does ecology and nature and prakriti mean in our own civilization. We believe in an industrial mechanization which thinks that it can solve every natural problem using mechanistic and industrial means. And sadly, nature is telling us that it's not possible. So that's some of the few points of my analysis to begin with.
And viewers, let's just think about this. Isn't prevention better than cure? Like our guests are also talking about. We have to prevent something that is way better than finding cures for it later when the situation worsens. I'd like both our guests to stay on with me. And now viewers, as the AQI conditions deteriorate around the national capital, let's take a look at how citizens are reacting to this on the internet. Now, in an aggravated yet highly concerning video, Kapil Nama, the founder of Options 360, shared that he runs 4 air purifiers round the clock in his house. Yet, when he opened his main door for just a moment, the air quality reading inside jumped dramatically from around 97 to 500 AQI within a minute, viewers. This is absolutely shocking. And in the short video, the founder opens his main door and points the camera at a running air purifier. The display first shows a reading of 97, suggesting the air inside is clean and safe to breathe. But within moments of leaving the door open, the numbers surge past 500, showing a sudden rise in pollution levels. Meanwhile, another ex-user by the name of Vivek has joked about the AQI levels in Delhi. He says that India must have its own index to check air quality levels, and it should be called the Bharatiya Air Quality Weather Administrative System, that abbreviates to BAQWAS. However, in several instances, a lot of people have questioned the AQI monitors. As a response, another ex-user, Tushar Gupta, has shared a satellite image and said, if you don't trust AQI machines in Delhi, trust the NASA satellite data at least. Another user by the name of Zubair has shared this video of a water sprinkler that seems to be working right at the AQI monitor, taking a jibe at the government. He has in fact said that instead of using water tankers to spray water, next time Delhi government should install Making in India's anti-smog machine to reduce the AQI. Social media users are also demanding offs from officers. This post right here has pointed out the difference from Thailand. and said when Bangkok declared work from home at 156 and Jakarta at 177, why is Delhi NCR waiting for lungs to collapse before acting? Even schools are open when kids can barely breathe. This isn't resilience, it's negligence. Several users have hinted towards a possible AQI data manipulation, as you can see on your screens. The AQI at Anand Vihar in Delhi is almost the same as Nainital, a natural haven in Uttarakhand. Another user, Dr. Said Shamshad Hussain, says AQI is in very poor category. NTI smog guns and water sprinklers to be put to work on war footing to bring down the AQI. The smog is expected with such high AQI. The video you see on your screens is of an air purifier the user shared. Another user, Sachin Taparia, has lashed out at the government, noting that every 3 people in 4 in Delhi NCR are currently suffering from sore throat, cough, headache and burning eyes. He has said that despite promises from politicians, things will not change until they actually do. Despite the fact that lakhs of people continue to suffer from the short-term and long-term effects of poor AQI in Delhi, farmers in Punjab continue to burn stubble, turning a blind eye to the reality. Despite the government implementing measures, how long will it take to make Delhi breathable? All right, I would now like to go across to Indra Shekhar, again, agri-policy analyst. Indra, you were hearing about the social media reactions that are coming in. What would you like to say on those?
To us the reality. I like the particular one about talking about, the work from home orders being issued in cities like Jakarta when the AQI level reached 156. I think it's important today that the government should mandate this for all non-essential travel and non-manufacturing sector travel, make people work from home. I think it's the immediate necessity that needs to be followed. I do not know why the government is not doing this, why we are still following these old redundant ideas of work in today's world, that everyone has to be sitting in office from 9 to 5 to get work done. COVID has already shown that we can do all our work from home and still be productive. So why not use that option? We are still, like I said again and again, it's basically pushing people into suicide, and you're having one of the users said bakwas. I think that's the abbreviation you used. We are losing faith in our system. We are losing faith in our government. It will come to a point of such hypocrisy where people are going to even, today in India, people are questioning from the electoral machines to the AQI machines. So when this cycle is completed, suddenly we'll have a big citizenry problem. We need to have some buffer so that the steam gets out. And it's not just political steam. This is ecological and health steam. If the government does not act, I've seen so many, I live near AIIMS area, and I can tell you from my own experience that the air is pathetic. And when you go outside and you see the anti-smog machines built on those trucks, they're not even working. So what are we really trying to do here? We say we're doing everything right on paper. We have the money. Everything is on a war footing. We are doing all the best technology. And everywhere there are news flashes about it. But when you are actually breathing, your system, your body is telling you that all this is a lie. And this is very bad for a country. If the national capital is suffering this, as a nation, what message are we giving to other people? We cannot clean our air. We cannot do things on the ground. We cannot stop our industries. We cannot shift polluting industries to other states. We cannot make Delhi, we cannot jump, do the green frog leap in Delhi where we have green industries in Delhi. We cannot do all those things. And yet we are professing to be the greatest nation in the world. Just by breathing Delhi's air. I think it's very important that all politicians and all bureaucrats should be asked to remove air purifiers from their home. I think that's the time these people are really going to listen. And furthermore, I would say that there should be an act of civil disobedience, which is completely peaceful. And the people should actually say, you know what, we are having a civil strike. No one will go no one will go to work for a day, to show our people that, listen, we are dying here and you are profiting from our death. I think it's come to that point now where desperate measures are required to ensure, that the ears that do not listen they basically listen with a bang. And the civil disobedience, I think for ecological reasons, it's about time that India also does follow it. We need also strikes for pollution. We need school strikes for pollution. We need college strikes for pollution. We actually need work from home kind of civil disobedience to save all of us together. And once the government wakes up, once the policymakers wake up, we may have some chance of saving not this year, but maybe the years that come after.
You know, Indra, very well said. And I want to go across to Anand, the Arya environmentalist. Now, Anand, this is such a shame. I mean, we're talking about young people, we're talking about pregnant women, but we have our parents cooped up in the house for like 2 weeks straight now. We can't even take our elderly for a walk. And it's really shocking. The question we're really asking is, what are the authorities doing? Even during Diwali, I was noticing where I stay, we have a ban on firecrackers post 10 p.m. But there's nobody to control that. Crackers are burnt way beyond 2 a.m. in the night. So it's really shocking. Now, as an environmentalist, I want to come back to you, and you've seen the kind of social reactions that are coming in. What would you like to say? What are the steps that we can take now to perhaps protect ourselves? Because there's no other choice.
Okay, I think the public is all knowing, and I think the kind of comments that I heard you read out are fantastic. And I think Mr. Singh also summed it up very nicely. Now, I will not say talk about the causes, but I think one solution that comes to me is possible through the Supreme Court. And that solution is something uh, from where I'm seeing the results. I have yet another case in the Supreme Court of India pending on the saving the wetlands across the country. Believe me, for 15 years, nothing was happening. It was only last year when we repeatedly mentioned the case in the Supreme Court, mentioned the case, I think, using their technical term, that the justices managed to, they agreed to hear it on a priority basis. Now, what is happening there is that the justices are using their powers to tell the states that if you do this in the next 30 days, you do this in the next 30 days thereafter. And it had been going on almost for a year now. And at least, I mean, we have reached or 2 steps on the wetlands. And exactly the same thing the Supreme Court has to do today, based on a number of they can club all the PILs together. And then they can say that on the third Sunday or the third Monday of the week, of the month, we will hear exactly what you have done in the last 30 days. Tell us. And who has done, who has not done. And if the person has not done his job, then he goes to Tihar jail. Like in my wetland case, I think the secretaries were summoned because they were showing zero progress on that. And now all of a sudden, all of them are on 100% compliance.
Anand, we are running out of time, so I'll have to interrupt you. But I want to thank both my guests for joining me on the broadcast. And now, well, I have with me Dr. Randeep Guleria, Chairman, Respiratory and Sleep Medicine, Medanta Hospital. And now my first question to you is, do you agree with IHME's report regarding deaths due to air pollution?
Yes, the IHME report regarding air pollution has some merit because air pollution is a silent killer. Many individuals who have underlying chronic problems, whether it be heart related, respiratory related, when they start living in an area where air pollution suddenly becomes very poor or goes into the severe range, their heart problem or respiratory problem deteriorates, they land up in the emergency or in the ICU, and this can be a cause of their worsening and death. So I think there is merit, and the IHE report of a global state of global air, which came out to look at the deaths in 2024, estimated that globally 8.1 million people, which is more than the number of people that died because of COVID-19, died in 2024 because of it.
Now, Dr. Guleria, now the report focused on PM 2.5, which is the most causes of deaths happen because of that. What do you say for that?
So most data suggest, and the global report also suggested, that almost 58% of deaths were because of PM 2.5. PM 2.5 means particulate matter of less than 2.5 microns. So it's a very fine particulate matter, 1/100th the size of a human hair. And these particulate matters go deep into the lungs. They cross the barriers. They cause swelling in the lungs, leading to breathing difficulty, decrease in oxygen saturation, worsening of respiratory problem. But they can also cross the lungs into the blood, and you have ultrafine particles also. Once they enter the blood, they cause inflammation in the blood vessels. And when the blood vessels get inflamed and narrowed, it can lead to heart attack, it can lead to strokes, and it can lead to chronic problems like dementia, memory loss, it can lead to arthritis, it can lead to worsening of blood pressure or worsening of blood sugars also.
Dr. Guleria, now PM 2.5 air pollution causes more deaths than hypertension, high blood sugar, high cholesterol. And why is that?
So PM 2.5 is, like I said, a silent killer, and it causes problems in a silent way. So it leads to worsening of all of these diseases, and therefore the burden of disease is much more than that we are able to estimate. We can always say that this person's sugar is high, he has diabetes, this person's blood pressure is high, he has hypertension. But air pollution will cause worsening of your underlying condition and deterioration of your health, and that is why the burden is much more, but it never gets documented as much as it should be.
Doctor, now according to you, who is really responsible for this air pollution?
So I think we have to work, this is something which happens as countries grow economically, as industrial growth happens. We have to balance economic growth, industrial growth with environmental friendly means. We must also look at the environment and see how we can do things in an environmentally friendly manner. A lot of countries have gone through the same phase as they went through industrialization, through growth. We saw that in London almost more than 50 years ago, Los Angeles, more recently in China, in Beijing. So there are solutions which are available. We have to implement them, and gradually I'm sure that if we implement them over the next few years, we should be able to have good quality air in the NCR region.
And Dr. Guleria, now my final question to you is, what do you say about cloud seeding? Is this really the solution from air pollution?
Cloud seeding is a temporary thing, and it is dependent on many factors, including humidity, the atmosphere, and therefore this is a temporary measure. I personally feel that we should look at long-term solutions rather than temporary solutions, because air pollution is going to be there every year unless we are able to develop strategies to control the emission, have environmentally friendly means in terms of transport, in terms of people becoming conscious of not increasing their carbon footprint. If we work as together, both policymakers, the general public, and everyone are able to work together, I'm sure we should be able to find a sustainable solution.
All right, Dr. Guleria, thank you for joining me on the broadcast. And now, I have Professor Dr. G.C. Khilnani, who is the Chairman, PSRI Institute of Pulmonary Critical Care and Sleep Medicine. Now, my first question, Dr. Khilnani, to you is that you've advised those with chronic lung or heart diseases to leave Delhi for 6 to 8 weeks. How severe is the current pollution crisis compared to previous years, and what prompted such a strong advisory this time?
Northern India has been, especially in Indo-Gigantic region, has been a routine. And there have been times when the PM 2.5 have crossed 1000. I am talking about 2014, 2015. It's not that this year the air pollution has been extraordinarily high during Diwali time. If at all, it has been slightly on the lower side, and the data would speak for it. And I have been grossly misquoted in saying that people should leave Delhi. That is not true. But there is a section of people with chronic lung disease which I see who are continuously on oxygen, and they should avoid exposure to outdoor air pollution. That was the idea. And if some of the retired people have their homes in Himachal Pradesh or the areas where they have extra houses where they can go and spend and have some holidays, they can prefer to go outside Delhi. I never meant to say that the Delhi should migrate to the less polluted area. So let it be very clear that only those people who are severely ill with chronic lung disease requiring oxygen at home and who have exacerbation of symptoms. The purpose of saying is that there is distinctly increase in the respiratory failure cases, there is a distinctly increase in the pneumonia cases, there is a distinctly increase in the ICU admissions with respiratory failure that we see every year. So, if I could summarize it, that my utterances have been misquoted grossly, and only small section of people may consider going to a.
All right, Dr. Kilani, I'm glad you've clarified that. And now my second question to you is that you mentioned that nearly half of COPD cases today are caused by air pollution rather than smoking. Could you elaborate on how particulate matter specifically damages the lungs over time?
So, what is particulate matter? Particulate matter is the aerodynamic diameter of 2.5, what is called as PM 2.5 or PM 10. Now, the particles which are less than PM 10 micron, they go into the lung and they do not go into the lowest part of the respiratory tract, whereas PM 2.5 particles will go into the lowest part of the lung and cause damage. Now, these are constituted by, it's not a one entity. Now, particulate matter from the diesel vehicle will be different, particulate matter from the dust, house dust will be different, particulate matter from the construction site would be different, particulate matter from the firecrackers will be different. But this is a measurement which tells us that this much amount of harmful substances are going into the lung. They cause increase in asthma symptoms, they cause bronchitis, they cause COPD, and there are data to show that previously 80 to 90% of COPD was caused by only tobacco smoking. Currently 40 to 50% of COPD in India is caused by outdoor as well as indoor air pollution.
All right, now Delhi's AQI levels often cross 400 during this season, Dr. Kilnani. From a medical standpoint, what are the immediate steps people should watch out for, even in those without pre-existing respiratory illnesses?
When the AQI crosses 400 or 300 or even higher, the people who do not have any respiratory or cardiac illnesses, they generally will have sore throat, running nose, tightness in the chest, feeling little unwell, little feeling feverish, having sleep disturbances, even the appetite goes down, the general well-being is not there. But that's not very serious. But those who have pre-existing lung disease, they have increase in their requirement of inhalers. Then instead of inhalers, they go on a nebulization. Quite often they keep taking antibiotics and cough syrups without any benefit. Quite a few will require corticosteroids for control of their symptoms. During this time, the hospital admissions with respiratory illness and ICU admission also increase, and that the same is being seen by us also in our hospital.
All right, now the Air Quality Life Index report says air pollution shortens life expectancy by over 10 years in NCR cities. So what long-term public health measures should the government prioritize to reverse this trend?
The Chicago study, which published in 2023, estimated that average life expectancy of Indians go down by 5.3 years and Delhiites by staggering 11.9 years. This study also showed that improving the air quality, as was happened in Beijing, China, increased their life expectancy by 2.2 years. So there is sufficient evidence that if you improve the air quality, the morbidity as well as the longevity would increase. So for that we need to find out the sources of air pollution. And main sources of air pollution in Delhi and also NCR and also northern India are vehicular air pollution, the road dust, the burning of fossil fuels, municipal waste burning, even the tandoors. There are 9,000 tandoors around in Delhi NCR which are working on coal and wood. Equally important is electric thermal power stations, which are majority of them are running on coal, and although they are not based in the Delhi NCR, they are outside Delhi, but because of the wind flow, the pollution comes to the rest of the area also. It's in fact whatever the thermal powers are there in 300 kilometers distance from the Delhi NCR, that affects the Delhi air quality also. So therefore, all these things should be controlled. That includes reducing the number of vehicles, improving the fuel quality to BS6, controlling the road dust by vacuum cleaning 4 times in a month, occasionally washing the roads, strictly implementing the construction and demolition norms which are well known, and all these are suggested by a study done by Dr. Mukesh Sharma and Dr. Dikshit from IIT Kanpur, and it is a published study actually.
And with that, Dr. Khilani, I'd like to thank you for joining me on the broadcast. And viewers, that's it from me on this bulletin. Stay tuned to NewsX for more news and updates.